I thought my daughter reached to help me rise for a toast. Instead, she shoved me to the marble floor at my own gala. Hard. The master key ripped from my neck. Chain snapping like bones. Metal screaming across stone. The sound sliced through champagne laughter and violin strings. 200 guests turned to stone. Forks frozen. Wine glasses suspended in midair. Diamond earrings catching light. All eyes burning into me. Sprawled like garbage on cold marble. My best dress torn at the knee. Celia towered over me, voice sharp as broken glass. She announced to the crowd that I was finished. Used up. Worthless. Harbor Light was hers now, or so she believed. Had always been, in her mind. I lay there spilling dignity across the imported marble. Hollow as a broken vase. The echo of that falling key thundering louder than my own heartbeat. Louder than shame. Louder than betrayal. My own daughter had just buried me alive. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. I am Margaret Hale, 74 years old, born and raised 20 minutes from here. Married James Hale when I was 22. Lost him when I was 61. I run Harbor Light Glassworks. Have for 13 years now. 3 furnaces, each one bigger than a garage. They breathe fire day and night. Steam rises from the cooling bays. Metal clangs against metal. The sound of work. The sound of life. 182 people work here. Good people. They know glass. They read heat like farmers read sky. Like sailors read storms. The factory sits across from downtown. Red brick. Tall windows. Smokestacks that reach toward heaven. Been here since 1892. My great-grandfather started it. Built it with his hands. That night at the gala, Celia pushed me down. The key scattered across marble. Cold stone against my cheek. My hip screaming, but I got up. Ruth helped me. My sister. Always steady. Always there. The music kept playing. String quartet in the corner. Donors sipped champagne. They pretended nothing happened. Rich people are good at pretending. But Celia wasn't done with me. She took the microphone from the bandstand. Her smile was camera bright. Television perfect. She started talking about Harbor Light's future. About change. About progress. Modernization. That was her word. Her fiancé Owen stood in the crowd. Nodding. Agreeing. Perfect teeth. Perfect suit. Perfect shark smile. His daddy owns Cade Equity. Private money. The kind that swallows companies whole. They had papers ready. Documents. Legal forms. A sale to Cade Equity. My signature on the bottom line. Then off to some coastal condo. Retirement. Safety. Simplicity. For my age, she said. Sweet as honey. Poison underneath. I took that microphone from her hands. My chest still hurt from the fall. My hip throbbed, but I stood straight. I said one word. No. The room went quiet again. Different quiet this time. Expectant. Waiting. I tucked the broken chain into my jacket pocket. Felt the weight of that key against my ribs. Then I walked out. Left them all standing there. Mouths open. Eyes wide. Across the street, the factory hummed. Always humming. Never sleeping. Heat leaked through brick walls like sunrise. Orange light. Yellow flames. Life trapped in stone. I called Sora Kim from the sidewalk. My attorney. Smart woman. Sharper than any knife. We move now, I told her. Trusts. Voting provisions. Emergency bylaws. All of it. She warned me. This would start a war, she said. I told her the truth. The war already started. I just hadn't been fighting back. I stood there looking at furnace light bleeding through darkness. Alive. Breathing. Waiting. Harbor Light almost died 3 times before this. First was the war. World War II. Rationing. No materials. No workers. Men overseas. Women learning jobs they never thought they'd do. Then the oil crisis. 70s. Gas prices through the roof. Heat costs killing us. Orders drying up. Layoffs. Fear. Third time was personal. The winter James didn't come home. Heart attack at 58. Snow on his coffin. My world ending. But we survived. Each time. Every time. We learned survival in small ways. Unglamorous ways. Renegotiated gas contracts. Night shifts when power was cheaper. Fixed broken equipment with borrowed tools. Bought used parts. Made do. James handled the mechanical side. Wrenches. Torches. Heavy lifting. I handled numbers. People. Problems. Celia grew up here. She walked these catwalks as a child. 5 years old. Hard hat too big for her head. The glassblowers loved her. Big men with gentle hands. They tucked muffins in her mittens. Called her princess. Taught her to see beauty in fire. She knew every corner of this place. Every machine. Every danger. Every wonder. Then she left for college. Business school. Came back speaking different words. Brand strategy. Market positioning. Valuation metrics. Love turned into leverage. Family became opportunity. Diego Morales runs operations now. Good man. Been here 15 years. Worked his way up from the loading dock. Knows glass. Knows people. Knows right from wrong. He brought me a list that night. Typed pages. Names and dates. Evidence. Unauthorized factory tours. Strangers with cameras. Questions about capacity. About costs. About weaknesses. Anonymous job offers to our key supervisors. Better money. Better benefits. If they jumped ship. Whispers about the museum endowment. All that money just sitting there. Locked up. Doing nothing. The whispers had a name. Lyle Penn. Our CFO. Gray temples. Steady voice. 20 years with the company. I trusted him. Thought I knew him. He started talking different. Using new words. KPIs. Asset optimization. Strategic repositioning. Unlocking value. Corporate speak. The language of vultures. I couldn't tell if he was scared or if he was hunting. If they got to him or if he got greedy. Ruth came to see me that same night. My sister. ICU nurse for 30 years. She knows crisis. She knows when people are dying. She pressed a spiral notebook into my hands. Composition book. Like kids use in school. Write everything down, she said. Dates. Names. Phone calls. Meetings. Who said what. When they said it. Paper outlasts charm. Truth survives lies. I wrote it all down. Every detail. Investor walkthrough with CADE representatives. Celia mentions safety concerns. Owen requests furnace operation manuals. Lyle proposes strategic sale options. Meeting after meeting. Plan after plan. My own family plotting against me. Sora and I worked in secret. Late nights. Quiet phone calls. Careful paperwork. We created the Harbor Light Holding Trust. Legal firewall. Protection. Any sale needed 2 signatures. Mine and the museum board's approval. Supermajority vote. No exceptions. Quiet money. Quiet law. Hidden strength. 2 weeks later, they made their move. State safety inspector arrived unannounced. No warning. No appointment. Cameras already rolling. Professional crew. This was planned. Owen just happened to be there. Pure coincidence. Right. Lyle looked helpful. Concerned. Pained but cooperative. Good performance. An apprentice's glove tore mysteriously. Right on schedule. Furnace alarm flickered. Perfect timing. They were writing their story. Building their case. Margaret Hale runs an unsafe operation. Elderly leadership. Declining judgment. Time for change. I walked onto the factory floor. Steel-toed boots on concrete. I knew every inch of this place. Every hazard. Every safeguard. I counted fire extinguishers out loud. 8 of them. Fully charged. Recently inspected. I had Diego run our safety drill. Emergency procedures. Shutdown protocols. Evacuation routes. Clockwork precision. Everyone knew their job. Did it right. Did it fast. Logged and signed. Documented. Proven. The inspector's script fell apart. His story crumbled. Cameras kept rolling, but they had nothing. We walked him to the museum wing. The old part. Original building. History in every brick. The endowment charter hangs there. Framed in glass. Legal document. Crystal clear. The factory cannot be sold without the museum board's supermajority vote. 7 members. 5 must agree. His smile died. Show over. That night my phone lit up with poison. Anonymous text messages. Staff complaints about my judgment. Rumors about my health. Lies about my competence. A draft petition appeared. Legal guardianship. Declining mental capacity. Celia's signature at the bottom. My own daughter. Glowing like fever. Like infection. Ruth found me at my desk. Past midnight. Still working. Still fighting. Her jaw was set. Eyes hard as granite. She knew what they were doing. They're turning safety into a weapon, she said. Making protection look like persecution. I called Sora. Told her to file the trigger. Use the nuclear option. Bylaw 9. Emergency provision. Last resort. If hostile actors attempt to seize control, employee proxies consolidate. Voting power shifts to temporary protection. Worker shield. 90 days of safety. No shares could move without union agreement. No deals. No sales. No surrender. 3 in the morning, I walked the catwalks alone. The furnace sang its one-note hymn. Deep bass. Constant rhythm. The heartbeat of this place. I touched the rail where James carved a tiny M decades ago. His mark. Still there. Still strong. I whispered to the heat. To the fire. To the memory of his hands. Just hold on. Hold tight. Don't let go. The fire listened. The building breathed around me. Alive. Waiting. Ready. I remembered what James used to say. Real money is quiet. It doesn't shout. Doesn't demand attention. That night I learned the rest of it. Real love is boundary. Real family is choice. The furnaces hummed their ancient song. The city slept around us. And I stood guard. Over what we built. What we earned. What we bled for. What we would never surrender. We won the day. Not the war. After the inspector left empty-handed, the real war began. Bylaw 9 was in effect. 90 days. A thin wall, but a wall. My phone lit up that same night. Anonymous texts. One after another. Your workers don't trust you anymore. You're putting everyone at risk. Step down before someone dies. I set the phone aside. Made myself tea. Earl Grey. Same brand James used to drink. The kitchen felt too quiet. Too empty. Outside, streetlights made shadows on my driveway. Ruth arrived with groceries. Milk. Bread. Campbell's soup. The basics. She took one look at my face and knew. They're not stopping, are they? She said. I showed her the messages. She read each one. Her jaw got tighter with every word. We sat at my kitchen table. Same table where James and I planned our future 40 years ago. Ruth pulled out her notebook. Started writing. Time. Date. Phone numbers. Every detail. Ruth exported the messages to a locked folder. Time stamped. Screenshots preserved. The next morning I drove to work early. 5:30. Empty parking lot. I needed quiet time. Thinking time. Inside the office, I found more poison. Someone had been through my desk. Files moved. Papers scattered. Nothing missing. Just disturbed. The mess felt older. 2-3 days maybe. They were looking for weakness. Ammunition. Anything to use against me. I called Sora from my office phone. Landline. Harder to tap. They're escalating, I told her. She was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke carefully. "Margaret," she said, "I've been hearing rumors. About Celia. About what she's telling people." I waited. Sora doesn't waste words. "She's claiming you're having memory issues. Confusion. Making poor decisions." My chest went cold. That kind of lie sticks. Spreads. Destroys. "Who's she telling?" I asked. "Board members. Key investors. The museum trustees. Anyone with power. Anyone who matters." I hung up and walked to the window. Looked down at the factory floor. My people were arriving. Good people. Honest people. But doubt is like smoke. It seeps into everything. Diego knocked on my door. Came in looking worried. "We need to talk," he said. He'd heard whispers in the break room. Questions about my health. About my judgment. Someone left a newspaper article on the bulletin board. About elderly CEOs. Mental decline. Family interventions. The article was circled in red. Highlighted. Like a warning. I asked Diego to bring me the security footage. Past 2 weeks. All of it. We spent the morning watching screens. Looking for faces. Patterns. Evidence. Found it on Tuesday night. After hours. Someone with a key card entering my office. The timestamp showed 11:15. Long after closing. The figure was small. Familiar. Moving carefully through my space. It was Lyle, our CFO, the man I trusted with everything. He went straight to my filing cabinet. Pulled out folders. Photographed pages with his phone. Employee records. Financial reports. Medical insurance claims. Tuesday. That matched how the files looked. Disturbed, then put back, almost neat. We sealed the footage in offline storage. Tamper-proof copies. Logs preserved. Building his case. Feeding information to Cade. I felt something break inside my chest. Not pain. Something colder. That afternoon I called Lyle to my office. Closed the door. Sat across from him. I didn't accuse. Didn't yell. Just asked. "How long?" I said. He knew what I meant. His shoulders sagged like a deflated balloon. 3 months, he said. Since they first approached me. I waited. Let the silence stretch. They offered me CFO at their Cleveland operation, he said. Double salary. Stock options. Retirement plan. All I had to do was help them understand the business. The vulnerabilities. The pressure points. I nodded. Still calm. Still quiet. "And my medical records?" I asked. He couldn't look at me. Stared at his hands instead. "They needed to know about your health. Your capacity. For the guardianship petition." Guardianship. The word hung in the air like poison gas. I opened my desk drawer. Pulled out an envelope. Placed it in front of him. "Your resignation," I said. Effective immediately. He signed without reading it. Hands shaking. Pen scratching across paper. When he left, I called security. Had them escort him out. Change the locks. Cancel his access. Then I called our attorney. Not Sora. Someone else. Someone who specialized in elder law. We documented the breach. Subpoenas, preservation letters, AHIPAA counsel on standby. Sora looped in a privacy specialist. We would make the theft of my records its own case. I needed to protect myself. Legally, medically, financially. That evening I drove to Ruth's house. Small ranch. Neat garden. Porch light glowing yellow. She made coffee. Real coffee. Not the instant stuff. We sat in her living room. Family photos on the mantel. James and me at our wedding. Celia as a baby. I told Ruth about Lyle. The betrayal. The medical records. She listened without interrupting. Nursed her coffee. Let me talk. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. Voice steady as steel. "You need an ally inside the family," she said. I laughed. Bitter sound. Empty. "Celia wants me gone. Owen wants my money. Who's left?" Ruth leaned forward, fixed me with that nurse stare. There's always someone, she said. Someone who remembers what this family used to be. I thought about that drive home. Windows down, cool night air. Ruth was right. Families have layers, hidden loyalties, old debts. I needed to find those cracks. Use them. The next morning I made a phone call. Someone I hadn't talked to in years. James's brother, Michael, the one who worked construction. Built houses with his hands. He answered on the third ring. Voice rough from cigarettes and weather. We talked for an hour. About James. About the old days. About family. About what Celia was doing to our father's legacy. By the end of that call, I had my ally. Michael knew contractors, union leaders, city councilmen, real people, working people, people who understood what Harbor Light meant to this town. That night I slept better than I had in weeks. The factory hummed outside my window. Night shift keeping the fires burning. But I wasn't alone anymore. The war was just beginning. Michael came the next morning. Early, before the sun painted my kitchen yellow. He knocked like cops knock. Hard, purposeful. I opened the door in my bathrobe. James's brother stood on my porch. 71 years old, still built like the construction worker he'd been for 40 years. Hands like hammers, eyes like steel. He hadn't changed much. Gray hair, deep lines, work boots with cement dust in the creases. We sat at my kitchen table. Same table where James and I used to plan our days. Michael drank coffee black, no sugar, no cream, the way working men drink it. He told me what he'd heard around town. Coffee shops, union halls, barber shops where real people talk. Celia had been making rounds, telling stories, spreading poison. She'd been to the city council, the chamber of commerce, the mayor's office. Always the same story, always the same lies. Margaret Hale is losing her mind. The factory isn't safe anymore. Someone's going to get hurt. People were listening. People were believing. Michael set down his cup. The sound rang hollow against porcelain. She's got Owen backing her up, he said. Money talks. And they've got plenty to say. I nodded. I knew the score. But Michael wasn't finished. He'd brought friends, union friends, people who remembered when Harbor Light employed their fathers, their grandfathers, people who understood what we meant to this town. He pulled out a manila folder, thick with papers, names and numbers, petition signatures, he said. 500 so far. Workers, retirees, local business owners, all saying the same thing. Margaret Hale stays. Harbor Light stays. I felt something warm in my chest. Something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. That afternoon I called a press conference. First time in my life. We held it outside the factory gates. Main Street busy with afternoon traffic. People walking by, watching, listening. I stood behind a borrowed podium. Microphones pointed at me like weapons. Ruth stood beside me. Michael behind me, Diego on my left. The reporters came. Local paper, TV news, radio stations. They expected an old woman making excuses, denying reality, clinging to power. Instead I gave them facts. Numbers, truth. Harbor Light employed 182 people, paid good wages, provided health insurance, supported 27 local suppliers. We'd operated safely in the last 15 years under my watch. 0 fatalities, minimal injuries, better record than most factories half our age. The museum brought in 30,000 visitors a year. School groups, tourists, art lovers. We contributed $400,000 annually to the local tax base. $400,000 that would disappear if Cade Equity got their hands on us. The questions came fast, sharp, designed to wound. Was I having health issues? Memory problems? Had I considered stepping down? I answered each one. Calm. Direct. No hesitation. My health was fine. My memory was sharp. My judgment was sound. But if anyone doubted that, they could examine our books. Our safety records. Our employee satisfaction surveys. Everything was open, transparent, honest. Unlike the people trying to tear us down. The press conference lasted 30 minutes. When it ended, I felt lighter. Cleaner. Truth has weight. When you speak it, the burden shifts to the liars. That evening Ruth and I watched the news coverage. Channel 7 led with our story. The anchor was fair, balanced. She presented both sides without picking favorites. But the footage spoke for itself. Me standing straight, speaking clearly, looking competent. Celia had declined to be interviewed. Owen was unavailable for comment. Silence speaks too, loudly. My phone started ringing. Reporters wanting follow-up interviews. Community leaders offering support. The tide was turning. But Celia wasn't finished. She never was. The next morning I found her waiting in my driveway. Designer suit. Perfect makeup. Anger radiating off her like heat from a furnace. She'd brought papers. Legal documents. A psychiatrist's report. Dr. Amanda Chen. Geriatric specialist. Someone I'd never met. Never spoken to. The report claimed I was showing signs of cognitive decline. Paranoid thinking. Inability to make sound business decisions. All based on second-hand information. Hearsay. Lies. Celia stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd raised her. Fed her. Loved her. She told me the report would be filed with the court tomorrow. Along with a new guardianship petition. More witnesses this time. More evidence. More pressure. She could save me from public humiliation, she said. All I had to do was sign the transfer papers. Retire quietly. Take the condo. Let her handle the business. For my own good. For everyone's good. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. She'd grown beautiful over the years. Elegant. Polished. But something essential had died inside her. Something warm and human. Money had replaced it. Ambition. Cold calculation. I told her to leave. Take her papers. Her lies. Her threats. She didn't argue. Didn't plead. Just smiled that television smile and walked away. After she left, I called Sora. Then the elder law attorney. Then the HIPAA specialist. We had work to do. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house. James's house. Our house. Pictures on every wall. Memories in every room. Celia as a baby. Learning to walk in the hallway. Taking her first steps toward James's outstretched arms. Celia at 5. Hard hat too big for her head. Standing proud beside a blown glass vase she'd watched Diego create. Celia at graduation. Business school. So smart. So ambitious. So full of plans. When had love turned to calculation? When had family become strategy? I couldn't pinpoint the moment. Couldn't find the exact place where my daughter had died and this stranger had taken her place. But it didn't matter now. What mattered was tomorrow. The court hearing. The psychiatrist's report. The guardianship petition. I had evidence now. Proof of sabotage. Documentation of medical privacy violations. Witness statements from my employees. But Celia had money. Lawyers. A pretty story about concerned family protecting an aging parent. Juries love those stories. Judges too. At 3 in the morning I made a decision. One last card to play. I called Dr. Patricia Williams. My actual doctor. The one who'd treated me for 20 years. She agreed to meet me at her office early. Before regular hours. We spent an hour going through tests. Memory assessment. Cognitive function. Physical examination. Everything documented. Recorded. Witnessed. The results were clear. My mind was sharp. My judgment sound. My capacity complete. Dr. Williams would testify to that in court. Under oath. With medical records to back her up. Let Celia explain how her hired expert knew me better than my own physician. That afternoon I returned to the factory. My people were waiting. Diego had gathered the core team. Supervisors, union representatives, long-term employees, people who'd worked with me for years. Who knew my capabilities, my character. They would testify too, about my leadership, my decision-making, my commitment to safety, about the real Margaret Hale, not the fiction Celia was selling. As the sun set behind the smokestacks, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Confidence, strength, the power that comes from standing on solid ground. Tomorrow we would go to court. Tomorrow we would face the lies. But tonight, the furnaces burned steady. The workers went home to their families. And Harbor Light breathed on, deeper than before, stronger than before, ready for whatever came next. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and old wood. Like judgment waiting to happen. I arrived early. 7:30. Court didn't start until 9. Sora walked beside me. Black suit. Briefcase full of evidence. Confidence in every step. Ruth held my other arm. Not because I needed help. Because sisters stand together. The hallway filled with people. Reporters. Lawyers. Faces I knew. Faces I didn't. Owen stood near the elevator. Perfect suit. Perfect smile. Perfect confidence. He nodded at me. Polite. Cold. Like acknowledging a competitor before a game. Celia wasn't there yet. Always made an entrance. Always controlled the timing. We found our courtroom. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. 20 years on the bench. Fair reputation. Hard to fool. The gallery filled slowly. My people on the left. Celia's money on the right. Diego sat behind me. Michael beside him. Dr. Williams in the third row. Real people. Working people. People who knew the truth. Across the aisle sat strangers in expensive suits. Consultants. Expert witnesses. Hired voices. At exactly 9 o'clock, Celia arrived. She wore navy blue. Conservative. Concerned daughter playing her part. Behind her walked her lawyer. Richard Ashford. Corporate specialist. Shark in pinstripes. The bailiff called court to order. Everyone rose. Judge Morrison entered. Gray hair. Sharp eyes. No nonsense in her posture. She reviewed the petition. Guardianship of Margaret Hale. Alleged incompetence. Medical concerns. Ashford spoke first. Smooth voice. Practiced gestures. Manufactured concern. He painted a picture of declining capacity. Poor judgment. Dangerous decisions. An elderly woman clinging to power while her business crumbled around her. He called his first witness. Dr. Amanda Chen, the psychiatrist who'd never met me. She testified about cognitive decline in seniors. Warning signs. Red flags. Then she read from her report. The one based on interviews with family members. Paranoid thinking. Aggressive behavior. Refusal to accept help. All fiction. All lies. But presented with medical authority. Sora cross-examined her. Sharp questions. Precise cuts. Sora entered a motion to strike parts of Dr. Chen's testimony as hearsay. Had she ever examined me personally? No. Had she reviewed my medical records? No. Had she spoken to my actual physician? No. Her entire report was based on second-hand information. Hearsay. Gossip. The judge took notes. Her face revealed nothing. Ashford called Lyle next. Our former CFO. The traitor. He testified about erratic behavior. Suspicious decisions. Declining performance. The mysterious handwritten notes. Missed appointments. Confused phone calls. More fiction, but delivered with inside knowledge. Corporate credibility. Sora dismantled him piece by piece. She played the security footage. Lyle breaking into my office. Stealing files. She showed the photographs of my medical records on his phone. She read his signed confession about working with Kate Equity. The judge leaned forward, paying attention now. Then came our turn. Dr. Williams testified first. My real doctor. 20 years of treatment. She described my recent examination. The cognitive tests. The medical evaluation. Perfect scores. Sharp thinking. No signs of decline. Her testimony was clear, direct, based on actual examination, not speculation, not gossip. Medical fact. Diego testified about my daily performance. Safety meetings. Production decisions. Staff interactions. Competent leadership. Sound judgment. Clear communication. Michael spoke about family history. About James. About the real Celia before money changed her. About loyalty. About truth. About what family used to mean. The workers came next. One by one. Honest voices. Real experiences. They told the judge about safety drills. Updated equipment. Fair treatment. About a leader who knew their names. Their families. Their struggles. About someone who fought for them instead of selling them out. The gallery was quiet during their testimony. Even the reporters stopped scribbling. Truth has a sound. When you hear it, you recognize it. Finally, Sora called me to the witness stand. I walked forward slowly, not from weakness, from dignity. The courtroom waited. Cameras focused. Everyone watching. Sora asked simple questions. My name, my age, my position at Harbor Light. I answered clearly, calmly, looking directly at the judge. She asked about my health, my memory, my capacity to make decisions. I responded with facts, test results, medical evaluations. She asked about the factory, safety records, employee relations, financial performance, numbers, data, evidence of competent management. Then came Ashford's cross-examination. He tried to rattle me, confuse me, make me appear unstable. Rapid-fire questions, aggressive tone, designed to overwhelm. I met each question with calm answers. Clear thinking, steady voice. He asked about paranoid behavior. I cited documented sabotage attempts. He mentioned poor judgment. I referenced a safety record that for 15 years had spoken for itself. He questioned my mental state. I offered to take any test he preferred. Right there, right now, in front of everyone. He declined. The questioning lasted 40 minutes. I never wavered, never stumbled. When it ended, I felt lighter, cleaner, like truth had burned away lies. Judge Morrison called a recess. 30 minutes to review evidence. We waited in the hallway. The silence stretched like pulled wire. Ruth bought coffee from a machine. Weak, bitter, but warm in my hands. Diego paced. Michael sat still as stone. Sora reviewed her notes. Celia stood with her lawyers. Whispering, planning, calculating next moves. She never looked at me. Never acknowledged my presence. I was already dead to her. Had been for months. The bailiff called us back. Judge Morrison had decided. We filed into the courtroom. The gallery held its breath. The judge spoke slowly, carefully, each word measured. She'd reviewed all evidence, considered all testimony, examined all claims. The petition for guardianship was denied. Margaret Hale showed no signs of incompetence. No evidence of declining capacity. The medical testimony was credible. The business performance was sound. The allegations appeared motivated by financial interest rather than genuine concern. The courtroom erupted. Cheers from my side. Shocked silence from theirs. Reporters rushed for exits. Phones appeared. Stories began. Celia sat frozen. Owen whispered urgently in her ear. Their faces were stone. Their plans in ruins. I felt no triumph. No celebration. Just exhaustion. The battle was won. The war continued. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. Microphones thrust forward. I made a brief statement. Simple, direct. Harbor Light would continue operating. Our workers were safe. Our community was protected. Justice had been served. Truth had prevailed. The questions came fast. I answered few. Let Sora handle the details. I wanted to go home. To my kitchen. To silence and tea. That evening I sat in my living room. Same chair where James used to read newspapers. The phone rang constantly. Reporters. Well-wishers. Business leaders offering support. Ruth answered most calls. I needed quiet. Space to think. The victory felt hollow. Necessary but incomplete. Celia was still out there. Still planning. Still dangerous. Owen still had money. Influence. Political connections. The 90-day protection would end soon. New attacks would come. But something had changed today. Something important. The truth had been spoken. In public. On the record. People had chosen sides. Lines had been drawn. The community knew where I stood. Where they stood. That night I slept better than I had in months. Not because the danger was over. But because the ground was solid beneath my feet. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New battles. New tests. But tonight, justice lived. Truth breathed. Harbor Light endured. The furnaces hummed their ancient song. The city slept around us. And I kept watch. Guardian of fire. Keeper of promises. Ready for whatever came next. They came for us 3 days after the court victory. The 90-day shield still held on paper. They simply stepped around it. Not with lawyers this time. Not with doctors or inspectors. They came with money. Pure and simple. Our gas supplier called first. Tuesday morning. 7:15. Emergency shutdown notice. Immediate suspension of service. Safety violations alleged. Anonymous complaint. State investigation pending. Sorry for the inconvenience. I knew the voice on the phone. Tom Bradley. 20 years of business together. His words were script. His tone was fear. Someone had gotten to him. Pressured him. Threatened him. The anonymous complaint traced to a DC shop Cade had used before. By 8 o'clock the gas trucks were gone. Valves locked. Meters sealed. The furnaces began cooling. 2,000 degrees dropping fast. Glass hardens when it cools too quickly. Cracks. Breaks. Dies. Like trust. Like hope. Like dreams deferred too long. Diego worked the phones. Backup suppliers. Emergency contracts. Anything to keep us running. No luck. Every company had the same story. Same concerns. Same convenient timing. Word travels fast in small industries. Fear travels faster. Ruth arrived with coffee and determination. She'd brought her notebook. Always her notebook. We sat in my office. Watched the temperature gauges drop. Listened to silence where machines used to hum. 182 people. 182 paychecks. 182 families. All hanging by threads that someone was cutting one by one. I called Sora. She was already working. Subpoenas filed. Injunctions prepared. Legal weapons loaded. But law moves slowly. Business dies quickly. The workers gathered in the main bay. Confused voices. Worried faces. Questions I couldn't answer. Not yet. Not honestly. Diego addressed them. Temporary shutdown. Safety precaution. Everyone goes home with pay. For now. For today. For as long as we could manage. They filed out slowly. Hard hats under arms. Lunchboxes forgotten on benches. 15 years of steady work. Gone in a morning. By noon the plant was empty. Machines silent. Furnaces cooling toward death. I walked the floors alone. Steel and concrete and the smell of dying fire. This was their plan. Always their plan. Court victory meant nothing if they could starve us out. Bleed us dry. Force surrender through economics. Owen knew business. Knew pressure points. Knew exactly where to squeeze. The afternoon brought more calls. More cancellations. More convenient emergencies. Our insurance company. Policy review required. Coverage suspended pending investigation. Our shipping contractor. Equipment maintenance. Trucks unavailable until further notice. Our bank. Credit line frozen. Loan documents under review. Each call the same. Professional regret. Unavoidable circumstances. Temporary inconvenience. All lies. All orchestrated. All designed to kill us slowly. Ruth made more coffee. We didn't need it. Needed something to do with our hands. The silence felt heavy. Wrong. Like a heartbeat that had stopped. I thought about James. About the early days. About other times we'd nearly died. War rationing. Oil crisis. The winter he didn't come home. We'd survived by adapting. By finding new ways. By refusing to quit. But this felt different. More deliberate. More complete. They weren't just attacking our business. They were attacking our existence. At 5 o'clock I made a decision. I called Michael. Asked him to spread the word. Emergency meeting. Tonight. Union Hall. 7 o'clock. Everyone welcome. Then I called the reporter from Channel 7. The one who'd been fair during the press conference. Time for the truth. All of it. On the record. The Union Hall filled quickly. Workers. Families. Community leaders. People who understood what we were fighting for. I stood at the front. Same podium where union leaders had fought for fair wages. Safe conditions. Dignity. I told them about the gas cutoff. The insurance suspension. The coordinated attack. About Owen Cade. About private equity. About money that sees people as inventory. About what would happen if they won. Plant closed. Jobs gone. Community gutted. The room was quiet. Absorbing. Processing. Then Miguel raised his hand. Same Miguel who'd asked what I needed before. What do we do now, Margaret? Simple question. Direct. Honest. I looked out at their faces. Saw fear. Anger. Determination. We fight, I said. All of us. Together. I told them about the backup plan. The one I'd been saving. The nuclear option. Employee stock ownership plan. ASOP. The workers would own the factory. Not all of it. Majority stake. Controlling interest. Real power. It would take months to structure. Lawyers. Paperwork. Financing. But it could work. Had worked other places. Other companies. Other fights. The room stirred. Whispers. Calculations. Hope creeping back. But first we had to survive. Keep the lights on. Keep people fed. I'd mortgage my house. Sell my savings. Give everything I had. Not charity. Investment. In them. In us. In the future we were building. The vote was unanimous. Not just yes. Hell yes. That night I couldn't sleep. Too much coffee. Too much adrenaline. I walked through my house. James's house. Our house. Pictures on every wall. Memories in every room. This house had been our dreams made solid. Our success made visible. Now it would become ammunition. Fuel for the fight. At 3 in the morning I called Sora. Woke her up. Told her the plan. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Margaret, she said, you could lose everything. House. Savings. Retirement. I told her I'd already lost everything that mattered. James. Celia. The company we'd built together. What was money compared to that? What was security compared to justice? The next morning brought cameras. Channel 7. Local paper. Regional business journal. I gave them the story. All of it. No holding back. The coordinated attack. The economic warfare. The plan to squeeze us into submission. But also the response. The worker ownership. The community support. The choice between surrender and fighting for what's right. The story went viral. Regional news picked it up. Then national. Small factory fights private equity. Workers rally around elderly CEO. David versus Goliath. The phones started ringing. Offers of help. Alternative suppliers. Bridge financing. Other communities that had fought similar battles. Won some. Lost others. All offering advice. Support. Solidarity. By Friday we had new gas service. Emergency supplier from 3 states away. More expensive. Temporary. But enough to restart the furnaces. The workers returned Monday morning. Cautious optimism. Determined hope. The fires lit again. Slowly. Carefully. Like something being born. Owen had underestimated us. Thought money was the only weapon that mattered. But he'd forgotten about people. About community. About the power of shared purpose. The furnaces climbed toward working temperature. Orange light painting brick walls. Heat that could melt steel. Forge glass. Transform sand into art. The same heat that would forge us into something stronger. Something he couldn't buy, couldn't break, couldn't own. That evening I stood on the catwalk. Watched my people work. Not my people anymore. Our people. Partners. Co-owners of the future. The factory breathed around us. Alive again. Hungry again. Ready again. James used to say real money is quiet. Real love is boundary. Now I knew the rest. Real power is shared. The war continued, but the battlefield had changed. We weren't just defending anymore. We were building something new, something better, something that would outlast us all. 6 months later, Celia stood at my factory gate. The ASOP was no longer a plan, it was policy. The first payouts felt real. No Owen, no lawyers, no cameras, just my daughter, looking smaller than I remembered. She wore jeans, work boots, a plain cotton shirt. I hadn't seen her dressed like that since college. Since she still believed in simple things. Diego called my office, told me she was waiting, asked if he should let her in. I walked to the window, looked down at her. She stood with empty hands, head down, shoulders curved like someone carrying weight. Not the confident woman from the gala. Not the predator from the courtroom. Just Celia, lost, alone, maybe sorry. I told Diego to escort her up. She climbed the stairs slowly. Each step deliberate, heavy. I waited in my office. Same chair where I'd signed her termination papers. Where I'd watched her try to destroy everything. She knocked, softly, like asking permission to exist. I told her to come in. She stood in my doorway. Neither inside nor out. Caught between worlds. Her face was different. Thinner. Lines around her eyes. Gray threads in her dark hair. The past months had aged her. Worn her down. Changed her. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat carefully. Perched on the edge like she might need to run. We looked at each other across the desk. Across years of hurt. Across the wreckage of what we'd been. She spoke first, voice barely above a whisper. She told me Owen was gone. Back to New York. New targets. New companies to devour. The engagement was over. The wedding cancelled. The future she'd planned erased. Kate Equity had moved on. Left her behind like damaged goods. Used inventory. She'd been living in a hotel for weeks. Thinking. Remembering, trying to understand what she'd become. I listened without speaking, let her words fill the silence. She talked about her childhood, the factory tours, the glassblowers who'd loved her, about watching art emerge from fire, beauty born from heat and skill and patience, about the pride she'd felt, being part of something bigger, something that mattered. Somewhere along the way she'd forgotten. Lost sight of what we really did here. Started seeing numbers instead of people. Profits instead of purpose. She paused, wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Then she asked the question I'd been waiting for. Could she come home? Not to take over. Not to run things. Just to work. Learn. Remember who she used to be. I studied her face. Looked for lies. For calculation. For the predator wearing my daughter's skin. Found only exhaustion. Regret. Something that might be hope. I told her about the employee ownership plan. The ASOP. The new structure. Workers held majority control now. Decision-making power. Real voice in the future. She wouldn't be inheriting anything. Wouldn't be handed power she hadn't earned. If she wanted in, she'd start at the bottom. Prove herself. Earn trust one day at a time. She nodded. Said that was what she wanted. What she needed. To remember what work felt like. What building something meant. What family was supposed to be. I called Diego. Asked him to show her around. Explain the changes. The new reality. She stood to leave. Turned back at the door. She thanked me. For not giving up. For fighting when everything seemed lost. For showing her what strength really looked like. After she left, I sat alone. Thinking. Remembering. The daughter who'd pushed me down. The woman who'd tried to sell my life's work. And the child who'd once watched glass being born from sand and fire. Maybe people could change. Maybe redemption was possible. Maybe family was more than blood. Stronger than betrayal. Or maybe I was just getting old. Soft. Foolish. Time would tell. The weeks passed slowly. Carefully. Celia worked the floor. Learning glass from the beginning. Mixing batches. Feeding furnaces. Sweating in the heat. The workers watched her. Suspicious. Careful. Memory is long in small places. But she kept showing up. Early. Staying late. Asking questions. Taking direction. No complaints. No demands for special treatment. No princess behavior. Miguel became her mentor. The same man who'd asked what we needed during the dark days. He taught her to read temperature by color. To judge viscosity by flow. To respect the fire that could kill or create. She learned slowly. Made mistakes. Burned her hands. Cut her arms on sharp edges. Each scar a lesson. Each failure a step forward. Ruth visited often. Watched her niece discover work. Purpose. Humility. She didn't say much. Just observed. Nurses know recovery when they see it. After a month, Celia asked about the museum. The education programs. The tours. Not to run them. To help. To contribute what she could. Business degree. Marketing experience. Skills that might be useful if applied correctly. We gave her a chance. Small projects. Limited responsibility. Room to prove herself. She developed new curricula. Expanded school programs. Created partnerships with art schools. Brought fresh ideas without dismissing old wisdom. Worked within the system instead of trying to replace it. The community began to notice. To soften. To consider forgiveness. Not for Owen. Not for Kate equity. Not for the betrayal. But for a woman trying to find her way home. 3 months after she returned, we had the dedication ceremony. The Margaret Hale Worker Education Center. New building. New programs. New hope. Funded by employee ownership profits. Designed by worker input. Built by local contractors. A place where people could learn skills. Start careers. Build futures. The ceremony was simple. Community gathering. Local press. People who mattered. I spoke briefly. About second chances. About redemption. About the power of work to heal. Celia stood in the back. Listening. Learning. Part of something larger than herself. After the ceremony, we walked through the factory together. Mother and daughter. Past and future. The furnaces sang their ancient song. Workers shaped beauty from molten sand. Light danced across brick walls. Heat rose like prayers. Life continued. She asked me about forgiveness. Whether it was possible. Whether she deserved it. I told her forgiveness wasn't something you deserved. It was something you earned. Day by day. choice by choice, action by action. She was earning it, slowly, carefully, one burned hand at a time. That night I sat in my kitchen. Same table where James and I had planned our future. Where Ruth and I had plotted survival. Where I'd made the hardest decisions of my life. The house felt different now. Less empty, more hopeful. Not because Celia had come home, but because home had become something we could share. Outside, the factory hummed. Night shift working, keeping the fires burning, but the sound was different now. Richer, fuller. The music of people building something together. Something that would last. James used to say real money is quiet. Real love is boundary. I'd learned real power is shared. Now I understood the final piece. Real family is chosen, every day, by everyone involved. The war was over, not because we'd won or lost, but because we'd found something better to fight for. Each other, our community, our future. The daughter I'd lost had found her way home. The family I'd grieved had been reborn. Different, scarred, but stronger for the breaking. Like glass that's been through fire. Shaped by heat, forged by time, beautiful, useful, built to last. 1 year later, I stood where it all began. The same ballroom, the same marble floors, the same crystal chandeliers casting rainbows on the walls. But everything had changed. This was our celebration now. The Harbor Light Worker Ownership Gala. First annual, no private equity vultures. No fake smiles hiding predator teeth. No daughters pushing mothers to the ground. Just real people, honest people, people who'd earned their place at this table. Diego wore a rented tuxedo. Still looked uncomfortable in formal clothes. But he belonged here now. Co-owner, partner, friend. Miguel brought his wife, Maria. 40 years of marriage. She'd sewn glass buttons on her best dress. Tiny works of art catching light like stars. Ruth sat at my table. Same sister who'd held my arm through the worst of it. Who'd written truth in spiral notebooks while the world tried to rewrite history. The key hung around my neck again. New chain. Steel mesh instead of gold. Harder to break. Impossible to snap. The old key. The same key. But it meant something different now. Not ownership, stewardship, not power over people, power with them. I walked to the podium. Same spot where Celia had tried to bury me alive. The room went quiet, not the shocked silence of betrayal. The respectful quiet of attention. I looked out at faces I knew. Voices I trusted. Hands that had built something beautiful from ash and anger. I talked about the year behind us. The battles fought, the ground gained, the future secured. About employee ownership, real democracy, decisions made by people who lived with the consequences. About safety records that spoke for themselves. Production numbers that told their own story. A museum that welcomed 40,000 visitors this year. About what happens when working people control their own destiny. The applause was different too. Not polite charity event clapping. The real sound of people celebrating themselves. After dinner, I walked through the factory. Same route I'd taken that night when everything started. But the building felt different. Sounded different. Smelled different. Still the heat of furnaces. Still the ring of metal on metal. Still the whisper of cooling glass. But underneath all that, something new. Something alive. The sound of ownership. The smell of dignity. The heat of shared purpose. The night shift was working. Always working. Keeping the fires burning through darkness. But these weren't my employees anymore. They were partners. Co-owners. Stakeholders in their own success. I climbed the catwalk. Touched the rail where James had carved his tiny M. The mark was still there. Weathered but visible. Permanent as love. Strong as memory. I whispered to him in the heat and noise. Told him what we'd built. What we'd become. What we'd saved. He would have been proud. would have understood, would have known this was always the plan. To build something that outlasted us. Something bigger than any one person. Something that belonged to everyone who helped create it. The education center was dark, but I had keys. I let myself in. Smell of new paint, new carpet, new possibilities. 27 students enrolled for the fall semester. GED classes, welding certification, glass arts program, computer skills for seniors, real education for real people. Funded by real profits from real work. Not charity. Investment. In people. In community. In the future we were building one class at a time. I sat in the empty classroom. Same age as most of the students would be. Still learning. Still growing. Still changing. The war had taught me things I never expected to know. How to read legal documents in the dark. How to mortgage everything for a principal. How to stand up when the whole world wants you to lie down. How to tell the difference between family and blood. Between loyalty and fear. Between love and possession. How to let go of a daughter without losing hope. How to gain a community without losing yourself. How to share power without giving up purpose. The hardest lessons come latest in life. When you think you're done learning. When you think you know everything that matters. But the furnaces teach patience. Glass teaches forgiveness. Fire teaches transformation. I walked home through empty streets. Streetlights making long shadows. Windows dark in sleeping houses. My house felt different now too. Still James's house. Still our house. But not a fortress anymore. Not a place to hide from the world. A place to rest before rejoining it. Celia had her own apartment now. Small place above the antique shop. Walking distance from the factory. She came for dinner twice a week. We talked about work. About glass. About the slow process of rebuilding trust. She was learning patience too. Learning that some things can't be rushed. Can't be bought. Can't be demanded. Learning that redemption is daily work. Like tending furnaces. Like shaping glass. Like keeping promises. Some evenings we didn't talk at all. Just sat on my porch. Watched the factory lights. Listened to the night shift working. The sound of her breathing. The sound of forgiveness slowly taking shape. Like glass cooling. Like wounds healing. Like families learning to choose each other again. Ruth visited most mornings. Coffee and newspapers. Gossip about neighbors. Complaints about politics. Normal things. Sister things. The comfortable rhythm of shared history. She never said she was proud of me. Didn't need to. I could see it in her eyes. Hear it in her voice. The way she talked to strangers about her sister Margaret. About what we'd accomplished. About the company that wouldn't die. Pride tastes different when you've earned it together. When you've bled for it. When you've refused to let it go. The factory hummed outside my window. Same song it had always sung. But richer now. Fuller. The music of people who owned what they built. Who shared what they earned. Who decided their own future. James used to say real money is quiet. Real love is boundary. I'd learned real power is shared. Real family is chosen. Now I understood the final truth. The one that comes after all the fighting. After all the breaking. After all the mending. Real peace is earned. Every day. By everyone involved. In small decisions. Daily kindnesses. Kept promises. In showing up for work. Sharing profits fairly. Teaching skills to neighbors. In the choice to build instead of tear down. To include instead of exclude. To trust instead of control. The war was over. Not because someone won or lost. But because we'd found something better to fight for. Each other. Our community. The work that gave our lives meaning. I fell asleep to the sound of night shift voices. People I trusted. People who trusted me. People who'd chosen to stand together when everything fell apart. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. New decisions. New chances to choose well or poorly. But tonight the furnaces burned steady. The glass cooled slowly. The company breathed on. Not perfect, not permanent, but real. Built to last. Made to share. Like love. Like family. Like all the best things in this world. Things that grow stronger when you give them away. 5 years have passed since that night. I am 79 now. Gray hair gone white. Hands spotted with age. Back curved like a question mark. But my mind is sharp. My purpose clear. My grip on the master key still firm. The factory breathes differently now. Deeper. Steadier. Like something fully grown. 215 employees. All owners. All stakeholders. All invested in tomorrow. We've expanded twice. New furnace. New cooling bays. New markets in 3 states. The museum hosts 60,000 visitors a year. School groups every week. Art students from universities I never heard of. The education center runs 3 shifts. GED classes in the morning. Trade skills in the afternoon. Senior programs in the evening. Celia manages the education programs now. Earned her way up. One burned hand at a time. She's good at it. Patient with students. Respectful of teachers. Honest about mistakes. The workers trust her. Finally. Took 3 years, but trust is like glass. Once broken, it needs time and heat to reform. She lives in town now. Small house with a garden. Grows tomatoes and herbs. Simple things. We have dinner every Sunday. Talk about work. About students. About the slow miracle of second chances. Sometimes she brings flowers from her garden. Sets them in James's old beer mug. Makes the kitchen smell like hope. Ruth still comes for coffee. Every morning. Same time. Same complaints about the weather. 81 years old. Still sharp as broken glass. Still the strongest person I know. She keeps me honest. Keeps me humble. Keeps me from believing my own legend. Because that's what they call it now. The legend of Margaret Hale. The old woman who wouldn't quit. Reporters come to interview me. Writers working on books. Professors studying worker ownership. They want to know the secret. The formula. The magic words that saved a dying company. I tell them there was no magic. Just stubbornness. Just refusing to let go of what mattered. Just people choosing each other over easy money. But they want more dramatic stories. Heroes and villains. Clear victories and defeats. Life isn't that simple, especially at my age. Owen Cade moved to Singapore. Runs private equity there. Still swallowing companies. Still spitting out bones. Some people never learn. Some people never change. But that's not my problem anymore. Not my responsibility. Not my war. Lyle Penn retired quietly. Moved to Florida. Plays golf and pretends the past never happened. Guilt has a way of eating people from the inside. Like rust. Like cancer. Like shame that never heals. I don't hate him anymore. Don't think about him much. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's letting go of the weight. The real story isn't about villains anyway. It's about ordinary people doing extraordinary things when everything falls apart. Diego runs operations now. Title and authority and respect he earned. Still wears steel-toed boots. Still knows every machine by sound. His son works here too. Young Diego. Fresh out of technical school. Learning glass from his father. 4 generations of the same family. Building something that lasts. Something worth passing down. Miguel retired last year. 65 years old. Pension from the ASOP. Health insurance for life. He comes by sometimes. Watches the young workers. Tells stories about the old days. About the fight. About what it cost to win. Stories matter. Especially the true ones. Especially the ones that hurt to tell. The young workers need to understand. This didn't happen by accident. Wasn't handed to them. Was earned in blood and tears and midnight meetings. was earned by people who refused to quit when quitting made sense. I walk slower now, need a cane on bad days. But I still make my rounds. Still know every corner of this place. Every danger, every wonder, every story these walls could tell. The smell of hot glass. The sound of hammers on steel. The whisper of flames that never sleep. The music of work. The rhythm of purpose. The heartbeat of community. Some mornings I find flowers on James's grave. Usually daisies, his favorite. Simple white petals around yellow centers. I don't know who leaves them. Don't ask. Some kindnesses are better left mysterious. I sit with him sometimes. Tell him about the company. About Celia. About the future we're building without him. He would be proud. Would understand. Would see the shape of what we always meant to create. Not just a business. A way of life. A place where work means something more than money. Where people take care of each other. Where everyone has a voice. Where the future belongs to those who build it. The doctors say I have good years left. Maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe more if I'm stubborn enough. I am planning for my absence. Succession plans. Leadership transition. The smooth handoff of responsibility. Not to family this time. To the people who've earned it. Who've proven themselves. Who understand what we're protecting. The key will pass to Diego. Then to someone he chooses. Then to someone after that. An endless chain of stewardship. Each link strong. Each holder responsible to the next. That's how things last. Not through ownership. Through obligation. Through care passed down like recipes. Like skills. Like love. The factory will outlive me. Will outlive everyone who works here now. Will outlive the buildings. The machines. The current generation of dreams. But the idea will survive. The example. The proof that another way is possible. That workers can own their workplace. Communities can control their future. People can choose cooperation over competition. That's the real victory. Not what we saved. What we proved. What we passed forward to anyone brave enough to try. Every morning I unlock the front door. Turn on the lights. Start the coffee. Same routine James and I began 40 years ago. Same purpose. Different hands. The key is heavy in my fingers. Worn smooth by decades of turning. Shaped by use into something beautiful. Like everything worth keeping. Made perfect by time. By purpose. By the daily choice to continue. The furnaces warm slowly. Glass gathers on blowing rods. Light dances across brick walls. Another day begins. Another chance to build something beautiful. Another opportunity to choose well. I am Margaret Hale, keeper of fires, guardian of promises, steward of dreams. I have fought my war. Won my peace. Earned my rest. But not yet. Not today. Today there is work to do. People to protect. Futures to secure. Today the fires burn bright. The glass takes shape. The community breathes on. Tomorrow will take care of itself. But today is mine. Ours. Everyone who chose to stand when falling seemed easier. Everyone who chose to build when breaking seemed simpler. Everyone who chose love when money would have been safer. The fire remembers everything. Every choice. Every sacrifice. Every small act of courage that built something larger than ourselves. And the fire never forgets. Never stops burning. Never gives up.